The sharp, clean scent of witch hazel always lingered. A subtle perfume, clinging to Ed Fontaine's clothes each morning. It blended with a deeper aroma of bay rum, a soothing fragrance that promised comfort and familiar order for all. Even before the sun fully climbed, that distinct barbershop smell seemed to awaken within the fibers of his worn work shirt. It was a smell carrying decades of stories, of quiet confidences shared, and the gentle hum of town life unfolding. This particular morning, the scent felt especially potent, a warm embrace from the past, reaching out into the present moment. Did you ever have a smell that just transported you back to a specific, cherished time and place? Like magic? It was 1959 in a sleepy corner of southern Louisiana, where the air hung heavy and time moved at a leisurely pace. Life flowed slower then, a gentle river meandering through cypress knees and sun-dappled bayous, touching everyone it passed. The world felt smaller, more connected perhaps, a comforting quilt woven from shared experiences and close-knit communities. This was Ed's world, a simple universe built on routine, respect, and the quiet beauty of everyday living, a true gift. Ed Fontaine, at 64 years young, rose with the sun's first blush, a man of habit and quiet contemplation. His hands, calloused but gentle, moved with practiced ease as he tied the knot of his plain silk tie, a small ritual. He carefully adjusted the crisp white collar of his shirt, ensuring every detail was just so, ready for the day ahead. A quick glance in the mirror showed a kind face, etched with a lifetime of listening, crowned with neatly combed silver hair. He smoothed down his mustache with a careful thumb and forefinger, a small gesture of preparation, a sign of readiness. Can you recall those small, almost unconscious routines that grounded your own mornings and prepared you for the world? He picked up his well-worn leather satchel. Not quite a briefcase, but sturdy. Holding his lunch and a newspaper, the familiar weight felt good in his hand. A testament to countless mornings and countless steps taken down Main Street. He paused briefly at the kitchen doorway, taking a moment to appreciate the stillness before the day's bustling began. A quiet sigh escaped him, a breath of contentment, not weariness. As he prepared to step out into the waking town, he checked his pockets one last time, ensuring his keys and a few dollars were tucked safely away, a prudent habit. The soft click of the doorknob echoed in the quiet house, a gentle punctuation mark at the end of his morning preparations. His sturdy shoes made a soft thud on the porch steps, announcing his departure to the sleeping street. A familiar sound. He pulled the door gently shut behind him, careful not to make a sound, respecting the quiet slumber of his household. He straightened his shoulders, a subtle movement, ready to greet the day and the many faces it would bring to his chair. Ed always walked, preferring the feel of the sidewalk beneath his feet to any hurried mechanical transport, a daily pleasure. The gentle morning breeze rustled the leaves in the oak trees, providing a soothing soundtrack to his peaceful stroll. He nodded to Mrs. LeBlanc's cat, perched on her porch railing, a silent greeting exchanged between early risers. Each step was a measured rhythm, a quiet meditation as he made his way toward the heart of the town, his barbershop. The early morning light cast long, dancing shadows of the trees across the empty street. A beautiful, fleeting tableau. Ed's house, a modest two-story with a wide front porch, sat comfortably amongst its neighbors. A true Louisiana home. Its paint, a pleasant shade of pale blue, showed signs of age but held strong, a testament to years of quiet resilience. A well-tended garden, bursting with colorful azaleas and fragrant jasmine, framed the front walk. A fragrant welcome, the scent of blooming flowers mingled with the morning dew, creating a fresh, invigorating aroma that filled the air. He glanced back at his home, a place of warmth and laughter, where his family still slumbered peacefully inside. A sweet thought. Did you ever feel that unique sense of peace, knowing your loved ones were safe and sound under the same roof, fast asleep? The neighborhood was a patchwork of similar homes, each with its own story, its own secrets, whispered to the morning sun. Children's bicycles lay forgotten on lawns, hinting at yesterday's adventures and promising more for the day ahead. The air was cool and sweet before the Louisiana sun claimed its full authority. A precious few hours of gentle reprieve. He passed the old oak tree, its ancient branches reaching like welcoming arms. A silent sentinel watching over generations. That tree had seen so much, just like Ed. A silent witness to countless comings and goings, a true town landmark. A dog barked a single, sleepy woof from a distant yard, a friendly sound that confirmed the town was slowly stirring. Smoke curled lazily from a few chimneys, carrying the aroma of brewing coffee and frying bacon. A comforting invitation. Ed imagined Sarah, his beloved wife, stirring in their bed, perhaps already planning the day's meals and errands. She was the heart of their home, the steady hand that guided their family through every season. A true blessing. He thought of his son, Thomas, still away serving in the Navy, and a quiet prayer for his safety rose in his heart. Thomas would be home for Christmas, and the thought brought a gentle smile to Ed's lips, a hopeful anticipation. His daughter, Marie, was a teacher now, living just 5 streets away, often visiting with fresh-baked peach cobbler. Do you remember the simple joy of a family member bringing a homemade treat? A small act of love and connection? He walked past the post office, its flag still furled, waiting for the day's first breeze to unfurl its colors proudly. Mr. Henderson, the mailman, would be there soon, starting his own steady routine, connecting the town with the wider world. The bakery's lights were already on, a warm glow spilling onto the sidewalk, promising fresh bread and sweet pastries. The tempting smell of yeast and sugar wafted out, a delightful aroma that often made Ed's stomach grumble slightly. He usually stopped for a coffee and a plain donut, a small morning indulgence before the long day truly began. Today, however, he decided to save his appetite, perhaps for Sarah's leftover pecan pie from yesterday evening. The town square was still deserted, the park benches empty, patiently awaiting the day's storytellers and dreamers. The old clock tower stood tall, its hands slowly nearing 6 o'clock, a steadfast guardian of the passing hours. Its chimes would soon ring out, a familiar melody that marked the start of another day for everyone in town. Ed paused for a moment, listening to the quiet symphony of the awakening town. A gentle orchestra of everyday sounds, the distant rumble of a delivery truck, the chirp of an early bird, the rustle of leaves. Each played its part. He thought of the countless mornings he had walked this same path, seen these same sights, heard these same sounds. Each day was a gift, a fresh canvas, yet comforting in its familiar patterns and gentle repetitions, a real comfort. The barbershop was just around the corner now. Its striped pole, visible even from this distance, a welcoming beacon. That red, white, and blue pole had spun outside his shop for 30 years. A symbol of constancy and simple service. It represented more than just haircuts. It stood for tradition, for community, for a place to feel heard and understood. He remembered his own father, a barber too, teaching him the careful art of the straight razor, a trusted family skill. Those were cherished memories, lessons passed down through generations, simple wisdom for a meaningful life. The streetlights, still burning, cast a soft, ethereal glow, like sleepy eyes watching over the quiet street. Soon they would extinguish, giving way to the brilliant golden light of the rising Louisiana sun. A new beginning. Ed quickened his pace slightly, a subtle excitement bubbling within him, ready to unlock the doors and start his day. He thought about the men who would soon fill his chairs, the familiar faces and the new ones passing through town. There was old Mr. Peterson, the hardware store owner, who always came in precisely at 7:30 for his weekly trim. Mr. Peterson, with his booming laugh and endless stories, was a fixture in the shop, a true character of the town. And young Billy May, the mischievous 10-year-old from down the street, who always wiggled and giggled in the chair. Billy would tell Ed all about his latest adventures, from catching frogs in the bayou to climbing the tallest pecan tree. Ed often wondered if Billy's generation understood the simple magic of childhood, free from complicated modern worries. Perhaps they did, in their own way, finding joy in the small wonders that filled their days, just as Ed had done. There was also Sheriff Brody, who arrived looking sharp and left looking even sharper. A man of quiet authority. Sheriff Brody often shared town news, not gossip, but important happenings that kept Ed connected to the community pulse. It was a privilege, Ed thought, to be a quiet observer, a silent confidant, for so many lives in his small town. He reflected on how many boys he'd watched grow into men, how many first haircuts, how many nervous shaves before dates. The barbershop was more than a business. It was a living archive, a repository of the town's collective memory and heart. Each snip of the scissors, each swipe of the razor, felt like a small stitch in the tapestry of their shared history. He remembered Mrs. Dubois dropping off her son, Jean-Luc, for his very first haircut, a moment of pure parental pride. Jean-Luc, now a father himself, still came to Ed for his trims. A beautiful continuation of a gentle tradition. Did you ever witness a small town's generations unfold before your very eyes, seeing the cycles of life repeat so beautifully? The women of the town, though not customers, were often discussed. Their garden parties and church suppers providing lively conversation. Sarah, his wife, would often send him off with a list of things to listen for. A charming way to stay connected to town happenings. He chuckled softly, remembering Sarah's keen interest in the details. A woman who truly loved her community and its people. The barbershop was a unique window into the masculine world of the era, a place where men could simply be themselves. They discussed crops, sports, politics, and occasionally the mysteries of women, all with a respectful, easygoing camaraderie. Ed considered himself truly fortunate to have spent his life in this gentle profession, surrounded by good people. He felt a deep sense of belonging, a rootedness in this soil, a part of the very fabric of his beloved Louisiana town. The sun was now fully up, casting a warm golden glow over the storefronts, waking the street with its gentle light. A beautiful, ordinary day was beginning, full of simple promises and the quiet dignity of a life well lived, waiting to unfold. Ed reached the barbershop door, the worn brass handle cool beneath his touch, a familiar greeting to his workspace. He inserted the key into the lock, a quiet click echoing in the still morning air, unlocking not just a door, but a day. Soon, the rhythmic snip of scissors and the friendly chatter would fill this quiet space, bringing it to vibrant life. Ed Fontaine often found himself drifting back to his very first clear memories of the barbershop, a place of enduring fascination. He was perhaps 5 years old, a small boy peeking through the glass of the front door on a quiet morning. The Louisiana sun, still gentle and new, painted long streaks of light across the barbershop's polished wooden floorboards. A comforting, clean scent of shaving soap and bay rum hair tonic always seemed to fill the quiet morning air. Do you remember those distinct, defining smells from your own childhood, forever linked to certain cherished places? His father, a diligent man named Jean-Pierre, would always open the shop before the first hint of morning light. He meticulously prepared everything, ensuring that each tool was precisely in its appointed, familiar place. The faint, rhythmic click-clack of metal barbershop tools being neatly arranged still echoes fondly in Ed's memory. The grand, dark red leather barber chair stood proudly in the room's very center, awaiting its first customer. It seemed like a comfortable, inviting throne, ready to welcome anyone who stepped through the door that day. Outside, the iconic red, white, and blue barber pole spun with a gentle, hypnotic, slow rotation. That spinning pole acted like a quiet, comforting lighthouse, guiding customers toward the familiar sanctuary within. He remembered the rumbling sound of old Ford and Chevy pickup trucks starting up on the main street outside. Those distinctive engine noises were a cherished symphony of small-town life, marking the start of each new day. Monsieur Fontaine, Ed's father, always donned a crisp, white barber's jacket. Impeccably starched and clean, the spotless uniform was a quiet promise of cleanliness and careful, precise work to every single customer. Do you recall a particular uniform or outfit that signified someone's important role in your own community? Then, the very first customer of the day would invariably arrive, usually just after 6 o'clock. It was almost always Mr. Miller, a local farmer whose face was weathered by years under the Louisiana sun. The small bell above the door would give a gentle, welcoming jingle, signaling a new day's beginning. Ed loved listening to the low murmur of morning conversations, a soft blend of greetings and local news. His father possessed a special talent for listening, absorbing every spoken word with quiet, genuine interest. He created a space where men felt comfortable sharing their worries and their small, everyday triumphs. This was the unique, unspoken covenant of a small-town barbershop, a sacred trust between barber and customer. The rhythmic snip-snip of the sharp barber's shears became a soothing, familiar soundtrack to Ed's early mornings. He often sat quietly on a small, worn wooden stool in the corner, observing the daily, simple rituals. Old copies of Life and Look magazines lay stacked nearby, their pages softened by countless turning hands. They offered glimpses into a wider world, far beyond the familiar streets of their quiet Louisiana town. The faint, distinct smell of mineral oil from the electric clippers would occasionally drift through the air. That peculiar, oily scent was an unmistakable signature of any true working barbershop. Then and now, Ed watched his father's hands, so steady and precise, moving with practiced grace around each man's head. Tiny, silvery strands of hair would gently fall to the tiled floor, like soft flakes of falling snow. The soft swish of the broom gathering those clippings was another familiar, comforting sound, part of the ritual. Do you have a small, habitual ritual from your past that still brings a quiet smile to your face today? He simply loved the feeling of the space, the easy camaraderie, and the gentle rhythm of the passing hours. It was a sanctuary where men could escape the daily grind for a short while, finding a moment of peace. Sometimes, an old tabletop radio would play gentle tunes, filling the barbershop with soft, distant melodies. These familiar old songs from the 1950s often transported him to quiet, pleasant daydreams. Even then, a quiet thought began to form in young Ed's mind. He hoped to be like his father someday. His father, Monsieur Fontaine, was the steady anchor of their family, a quiet force of dignity and kindness. One particular afternoon, a small yet significant event occurred that would forever shape Ed's young perspective. The shop was unusually empty for a moment, the afternoon sun streaming lazily through the front window. Ed was surprised when his father beckoned him over, a gentle smile playing upon his kind face. "Would you like to try sitting in the big chair for a moment, my boy?" his father quietly asked him. Ed's heart fluttered with a mixture of excitement and a touch of nervous, childlike anticipation. He carefully climbed onto the huge, padded leather seat, feeling incredibly small, yet also very important. The chair swiveled with a soft, satisfying sigh, a sound he remembered vividly to this very day. Can you recall the first time you experienced something usually reserved for adults, feeling suddenly grown up? His father gently draped a soft, clean white linen cloth around Ed's small neck, just like a real customer. The fresh, clean smell of the laundered cloth was comforting, a gentle embrace of the barbershop's essence. Then, his father began to gently comb Ed's hair, carefully parting it with practiced, familiar movements. It wasn't a haircut, not really, but a demonstration, a loving invitation into his father's trusted world. Ed closed his eyes, feeling the soft pull of the comb, the gentle touch of his father's warm fingers. Monsieur Fontaine quietly hummed a familiar, wordless tune, a melody often heard echoing softly in the shop. It was a moment of profound, simple peace, a silent bond forming between father and his curious young son. He felt utterly safe and deeply loved, nestled within the heart of his father's everyday working world. The large mirror before him reflected his father's kind eyes, watching him with unwavering, tender affection. Do you recall a specific, loving glance from someone special that truly made you feel seen and deeply understood? Rows of gleaming glass bottles, filled with various tonics and lotions, lined the shelves behind them. They sparkled like tiny amber and emerald jewels, catching the afternoon light with quiet elegance. The satisfying clink of coins dropping into the old brass cash register was a daily, familiar sound. His father meticulously counted out change, his fingers nimble and precise, a testament to years of practice. This simple act of honesty and care was a quiet lesson in respect for every customer, young or old. Ed instinctively knew he was learning something profound beyond just the art of cutting hair. He was learning about human connection, the gentle weaving of lives within a shared communal space. Each man who sat in that chair brought his own unique story, his joys, and also his quiet sorrows. His father became the quiet, trusted keeper of the town's unspoken narratives, a silent confidant. Do you recall a person in your own life who quietly held the stories of your community? A true pillar? Ed wanted to inherit that trust, that quiet wisdom, and that gentle way of understanding people. He longed to become an integral part of that special, unspoken bond that held their small town together. As the years quietly unfolded, Ed grew older, his fascination with the shop only deepening with time. He started helping out, sweeping hair, shining shoes, and running errands for his father and the customers. Every small task was a valuable lesson, a step closer to understanding the true heart of the barbershop. He learned to mix the talcum powder with the right touch, a skill only true barbers understood completely. The glass display case held an assortment of older, forgotten treasures, combs, brushes, and colorful hairnets. A very old, hand-cranked shaving machine, a relic from his grandfather's days, still sat dusty on a shelf. His grandpère, Jean-Pierre's father, had also been a barber, his legacy woven into the very fabric of the shop. His grandpère's favorite, well-worn shears were carefully kept in a small, velvet-lined wooden box nearby. Do you hold on to cherished family heirlooms? Quiet reminders of those who came before you, shaping your path? Ed began to understand, with a quiet certainty, that this path, this life, was meant for him too. He felt a deep, unspoken desire to continue the family tradition, to carry on his father's gentle work. He would be the third generation to stand behind that very chair, serving the people of their small town. He pictured himself, years from then, listening to new stories, offering comfort and a steady hand. The distant, melancholic whistle of a passing train would sometimes echo through the sleepy afternoon air. It was a gentle reminder of the vast world beyond their familiar Main Street, always moving, always changing. But within the four walls of the barbershop, time seemed to slow, held by the steady rhythm of the day. Every scuff mark on the wooden floor, every worn spot on the chair, held a silent, treasured story. His father, though quiet, was a master storyteller, his hands doing the talking through his careful work. He taught Ed the profound importance of truly seeing and hearing each person who walked through the door. This was a priceless lesson, far more significant than any technique for trimming hair or shaving a beard. He could still recall the sweet, warm scent of hot shaving cream, lathered generously from a steaming mug. The gentle, soft scrape of the razor was a comfort, a familiar melody of precision and quiet care. Do you have a particular sound from your past that instantly brings you a deep sense of peaceful calm? The barbershop wasn't just a building. It had become an inseparable, cherished part of his very soul. It was the place where he first found his quiet purpose, etched into the heart of his small-town existence. The image of his father, standing tall and steady, remained as clear as the Louisiana sky after a soft rain. These early memories formed the solid, comforting bedrock upon which he would build his own barber's life. He could still feel the quiet, enduring spirit of that small shop, a silent force guiding his own steady hands. It was the sacred place where stories began, where connections were quietly formed, and where life unfolded. And the quiet hum of the fluorescent lights would softly greet him, a silent, hopeful promise for tomorrow. Every morning in 1959, the sun peeked through the bedroom curtains of Ed Fontaine, illuminating the peaceful room. Ed Fontaine usually woke up before the metal alarm of his wife Sarah rang out on the nightstand. He was accustomed to this peaceful rhythm, a routine that had shaped his life over the passing of 4 decades. Do you remember the feeling of peace when a new day begins before the outside world awakens and it's just you? He put on his clean work clothes, the cotton fabric rustling softly in the quiet morning air. The smell of fresh brewed coffee from Sarah's kitchen spread throughout the house, a pleasant sign of a quiet morning. They ate breakfast together, the sound of spoons hitting cereal bowls being the only noise in the first moments of the day. Ed always read the local newspaper, carefully scanning the headlines and small-town news every day. Afterward, he strolled 2 blocks down to Main Street, where his shop waited to open for a new day. Main Street at 6 in the morning was still quiet, with only the sound of birds singing and a gentle wind rustling through the leaves. Other shops remained closed, their vintage brick storefronts sleeping under the gentle early morning light. Ed's Barbershop, with its red, white, and blue spinning pole, was a small beacon in the early darkness. He opened the door, the small bell attached to it ringing cheerfully, welcoming a new workday about to begin. The smell of shaving soap and old-fashioned hair tonic was always the first thing to greet him each early morning. It was the scent of work, of familiarity, and of the life he had built here over the years. Ed carefully swept the floor, ensuring everything was clean and orderly for the first customer of the day. He checked his razors and scissors, sharpening them if needed, a daily ritual he had long enjoyed. 9 o'clock was when the first customer usually walked in, often Mr. Henderson from the local bank. Do you remember a specific acquaintance who started your day? A long-trusted face? The hum of conversation and the snip of scissors began to fill the previously quiet space of the shop. Every man who sat in Ed's chair brought a story, his own piece of news to share. Ed heard everything, from the latest cotton prices to the small-town gossip that everyone cared about. The barbershop was the unofficial information center of Main Street, a reliable word-of-mouth network. The morning passed with the clicking of scissors and the constant, soft murmur of conversations. Sometimes, Ed would sip a bottle of soda from the old Coca-Cola refrigerator in the corner of his room. It was an essential part of the day, a small moment of rest before the next customer arrived. At noon, Main Street came alive with people running errands and busy lunchgoers. The smell of fresh bread from the bakery and fragrant smoke from the diner all blended into the midday air. Ed usually stopped by Millie's diner for a quick lunch, often a delicious bean and cabbage stew. Millie always had the latest news, a sharp woman with a heart of gold, like a gem of the town. After lunch, he sometimes stopped at Johnson's General Store to buy a few necessities for the family. The smell of wood and candy, along with the ringing of the doorbell, always reminded him of his own childhood. Do you remember a local store, a place where you could find everything and feel at home? The afternoon brought a slower pace as conversations became much deeper and more pensive. The shop radio often played smooth jazz or afternoon news from distant New Orleans. Those old radios had their own voice, sometimes crackling, but always bringing news to everyone in town. On hot days, the ceiling fan spun slowly, pushing the humid air around the room. Ed had cut hair for generations of men, from young boys to men much older than himself. He knew all the families, their stories, their hopes, and their quiet struggles. Sometimes, a customer would ask about Ed's black and white TV, a novelty in many homes. It had a small screen, and sometimes the signal was fuzzy, but it was a window to a much larger world. Sarah's favorite show was I Love Lucy, her laughter echoing throughout the house in the evening. Ed preferred listening to her laughter over watching any show on that tiny screen. Around 5 in the evening, the pace in the shop slowed down, signaling the day was gradually coming to an end. He did a final sweep, put away his tools, and wiped down the blue leather chairs. Then Ed walked home. Main Street now quieter, the sunset painting it in vibrant orange gold. The scent of night jasmine and fresh-cut grass began to spread through the cool evening air. Do you remember the sense of summer evenings that marked the end of a busy day? Sarah had prepared dinner, usually a simple but delicious dish, like a piping hot beef and potato stew. They ate in the kitchen, the murmurs and the clinking of cutlery being the sounds of family life. Their daughter, Mary Beth, often told them about her day at school, the little joys and funny stories. Mary Beth's laughter was music in Ed's house, a joyful melody he cherished. After dinner, they usually sat in the living room, a comfortable room with soft fabric sofas. Ed usually read the papers. Sarah knitted or sewed, and Mary Beth did her homework diligently. The soft light from the table lamps created a cozy atmosphere, a refuge from the outside world. These evenings were the core of family life, simple yet profound and memorable moments. Sometimes they played cards or checkers, with laughter and gentle competition filling the cozy room. Those games weren't just entertainment, but a way to bond, to be happy together. Ed loved watching Sarah and Mary Beth, the women in his life, laughing and sharing. Before bed, Ed and Sarah usually sat on the porch, watching the bright stars in the Louisiana sky. The chirping of crickets and the croaking of frogs echoing from afar were their lullaby every night. It was a moment for reflection, to look back on the day that had passed and prepare for tomorrow. Do you remember quiet evenings like that, where the world seemed to stop just for a moment? Small-town life was a cycle of work, family, and repeating moments of peace. Ed loved the simplicity of it, the familiarity of each passing day having its own meaning. He was part of that pulse, a keeper of secrets and a storyteller for many others. His barber chair was an anchor, a place where people could find peaceful comfort. As he closed his eyes, he could hear the whispers of the town, a familiar daily symphony, the sound of cars driving through Main Street, the barking of dogs in the distance. All were part of his world. He felt grateful for these simple moments, the small gifts of each passing day, the stories heard, the smiles seen, the lives that had touched him throughout the years. Each day was a new chapter, written with sharp blades and heartfelt conversations. And so, Ed Fontaine drifted off to sleep, waiting for a new day with new stories to come. Little things created a rich life, a tapestry woven with the threads of the town. He knew that dawn would soon break, bringing with it the alarm bell and the familiar smell of coffee. Day after day, his life flowed by, a story told in peaceful rhythms. The barbershop remained a symbol, a steadfast place in a changing world. People came and went, but the stories remained, retold through the years. Do you feel that some places hold the echoes of everyone who has ever been there? It was a legacy of shared conversations, laughter, and whispers. Ed lived a simple but rich life, with the people he loved and his work. Every haircut, every story heard, was a brick building the wall of his life. He had seen the world change from his chair, the progress made, and the traditions that remained. Life went on like that, like a slow-flowing river through his beloved Louisiana land. It was a continuous flow, bringing new stories and faces every day. And in that flow, Ed found his peace and purpose clearly. The town's noise now settled, leaving only the gentle silence of the night. A shooting star streaked across the sky. A fleeting moment in the eternity of the universe. Do you remember seeing shooting stars and feeling like part of something vast? Ed closed his eyes, a gentle smile on his lips as he fell into a deep sleep. His dreams were perhaps the faces of customers, the stories they had told him, or perhaps it was the laughter of Sarah and Mary Beth, the favorite sounds of his life. Whatever they were peaceful dreams. Just like the life he had lived fully. The comfort of routine, the warmth of family, the familiarity of his small town, everything blended into a deep sleep, preparing for the days to come. There was no rush, nothing that needed to change in this little world of Ed's. Only the gentle rhythm of life. A steady flow through precious time, and in that silence, there was a profound beauty, a rare contentment that he knew, a peaceful sleep under the gentle moonlight of a warm and quiet Louisiana night. The day had ended, and a new day was waiting on the horizon. Full of promise, Ed Fontaine often remembered those days when every person walking down Main Street had a familiar face, a name he could readily recall. It was a close-knit community where folks shared more than just gossip, exchanging comfort and quiet support through life's unfolding seasons. Neighbors knew each other by the sound of their screen doors closing and the particular scent of their Sunday morning breakfast cooking. Do you remember that comforting sense of belonging, where everyone knew your grandmama and your favorite ice cream flavor? The church stood as the undisputed heart of town, its steeple a silent sentinel overlooking everyone's shared joys and sorrows. Every Sunday morning, families gathered at First Baptist, their best clothes rustling and hymns filling the warm Louisiana air. After services, the church lawn became a bustling picnic ground, with potluck dishes overflowing and laughter echoing through the oak trees. Mrs. Henderson's famous pecan pie was always the first to disappear, a sweet testament to her baking prowess and generous spirit. The annual county fair was an anticipated event, a kaleidoscope of sights and sounds that drew folks from miles around our little spot. Under the twinkling lights, children chased balloons, while teenagers dared each other on the rickety but exciting carnival rides. The air hung heavy with the sweet aroma of spun sugar and buttery popcorn, a smell that still evokes happy memories for Ed. Only a true local would know the best time to visit the livestock barn, right before the sunset, for cooler air and quieter animals. Our town also celebrated the Strawberry Festival each spring, honoring the luscious red berries grown in the rich Louisiana soil. The sweet scent of fresh strawberries permeated the entire town, a delicious herald of warmer days and abundant harvests. The highlight was always the strawberry pie baking contest, a friendly but fierce competition among the town's most talented cooks. Do you have a special local festival from your own past that still brings a smile to your face with its simple, shared traditions? Miss Eleanor, the gentle school teacher, shaped generations of children from her classroom on Elm Street with kindness and patience. She always had a wise word, a comforting smile, and an uncanny ability to see the best in every shy or boisterous young pupil. Her influence flowed through the town like a quiet river, nourishing young minds and building the very foundation of our community. Ed always admired Miss Eleanor's unwavering dedication, seeing her calm presence as a cornerstone of our collective identity. Mr. Silas, the proprietor of the general store, was another pivotal figure, a man who seemed to know every family's history. His store, with its creaking floorboards and rows of canning jars, was more than just a place to buy goods. It was a town hub. Folks would linger by the Cracker Barrel, exchanging news and gossip, a tradition as old as the town itself. Only the most observant patrons knew Mr. Silas kept a small, secret stash of licorice sticks just for the children. Then there was Mrs. Dubois, a quiet woman whose hands performed magic with flour, butter, and the freshest local ingredients. Her apple pies were legendary, their crusts golden and flaky, their fillings bursting with the sweet, tart essence of autumn. The aroma of her baking would waft down the street on a gentle breeze, a comforting signal that all was right with the world. Can you recall a particular scent from your own childhood that instantly transports you back to a warm, cherished memory. Folks would visit each other's front porches in the evenings, sharing glasses of sweet tea and the day's quiet observations. Laughter would drift across manicured lawns, mingling with the chirping crickets and the distant croaking of bullfrogs from the bayou. When someone fell ill, a casserole would appear on their doorstep, a silent offering of care and practical, heartfelt support. These small gestures wove a sturdy fabric of community, a tapestry of shared lives and genuine human connection. 4th of July was always a spectacular affair, celebrated with a parade featuring local marching bands and decorated floats. Later, families would gather by Lake Pontchartrain, watching fireworks burst in colorful sprays against the inky night sky. The joyful shouts of children mingled with the booms and crackles, creating a symphony of patriotic celebration and shared delight. Only true locals knew that the best spot for viewing the fireworks was from the old fishing pier, just past the abandoned boathouse. Sheriff Brody, with his slow drawl and keen eyes, maintained order with a firm but fair hand, knowing everyone by name. His patrol car, a gleaming Ford, was a familiar sight, a symbol of steady presence and quiet reassurance in our peaceful town. Ed often heard stories about Sheriff Brody, listening patiently to folks, understanding the nuances of small-town disputes and concerns. Sheriff Brody was a quiet anchor in the currents of daily life, keeping everyone safe with his calm, steady demeanor. Life here was not about grand events or bustling city lights, but about the simple rhythm of shared moments and familiar faces. Ed, from his barbershop chair, observed the ebb and flow of these connections, privy to countless whispered confidences and joyful announcements. The barbershop itself became a sort of informal town hall, a place where news traveled faster than any telegraph line. Do you remember a place in your past where people gathered freely, sharing stories and building unspoken bonds of friendship? On chilly winter evenings, families would gather around crackling fireplaces, telling old stories and sipping warm apple cider. Grandparents would recount tales of bygone eras, their voices soft, like the falling snow outside the window panes. The warmth inside, a combination of wood smoke and shared affection, created an enduring sense of comfort and belonging. Only Louisianians understood that chilly meant anything below 60 degrees, and scarves were pulled out for mere briskness. Over 30 years, Ed saw children grow into adults, their hair changing from fine baby wisps to thick, unruly manes. He watched as young lovers became old married couples, their hands still intertwined, their stories etched into the very fabric of the town. These relationships, like old oak trees, grew deeper roots with each passing year, weathering storms and basking in sunlit days. Ed felt himself a quiet, constant presence, a silent observer of this beautiful, unfolding human drama in our small community. Old Mr. Johnson, the quiet cobbler, would mend shoes with a patient hand, his shop smelling of leather and shoe polish. He crafted each stitch with care, believing that a well-repaired shoe could carry its owner through many more happy miles. Mr. Johnson was a testament to the quiet dignity of honest work, a cornerstone of our town's hard-working spirit and dedication. Does your memory hold a special place for a local craftsman or artisan whose skill brought beauty and utility to your own town? Saturday mornings often meant a trip to the local farmer's market, brimming with fresh produce and lively chatter. Heaping baskets of okra, plump tomatoes, and vibrant peppers promised delicious meals and the taste of the rich Louisiana earth. Cooking was a beloved art form here, each dish a celebration of our heritage and the bountiful resources of the land. Only a true Cajun cook knew that the secret to a perfect gumbo was a dark, patient roux, stirred until it reached chestnut brown perfection. The pace of life was slower then, measured by the rising and setting sun, and the gentle ebb and flow of the tides. There was no hurry to rush through the days, allowing ample time for quiet reflection and meaningful conversation. Summer evenings meant fireflies dancing in the twilight, their tiny lights blinking like scattered jewels across the darkening fields. The symphony of crickets and frogs provided a soothing soundtrack, a gentle lullaby for a town drifting off to sleep. Mr. Jones, the bank manager, was a man of few words but profound trustworthiness. Safeguarding the town's humble savings, his quiet demeanor inspired confidence, a silent promise that every penny was safe under his watchful and honest care. Mr. Jones was like a sturdy vault door, always secure and dependable, protecting the financial foundations of every family. Ed respected Mr. Jones's silent strength, understanding that true reliability often spoke louder than any grand pronouncements. Anniversaries and birthdays were celebrated with gusto, often with homemade cakes and heartfelt, simple gifts. Every card was signed by hand, every present chosen with care, reflecting the genuine affection shared among friends and family. These were the threads that wove the rich fabric of our community, a tapestry of shared joy and mutual support. Do you remember those special occasions, simple yet profound, that truly brought your own community closer together? The high school dances, held in the gymnasium, were legendary, filled with nervous laughter and clumsy, hopeful steps. The faint strains of a local band playing familiar tunes would drift out into the cool night air, inviting everyone to join. Many a lifelong romance blossomed under the dim lights of those dances, stories later shared in Ed's barber chair. Only a true local would know to arrive early, to snag a spot near the punch bowl, where all the best gossip circulated quietly. Visiting hours were sacred, a time for quiet conversation and the sharing of homemade remedies and gentle encouragement. A simple hand squeeze, a reassuring nod, often spoke volumes more than any lengthy string of carefully chosen words. The community embraced everyone, wrapping them in a blanket of understanding and unconditional support, like a cozy quilt. Ed found immense comfort in this unspoken bond, a silent strength that underpinned every aspect of their daily lives. Town meetings, held in the old schoolhouse, were spirited affairs where every voice had a chance to be respectfully heard. Decisions were made collectively, reflecting the shared values and common good of all the folks who called this place home. Each citizen felt a quiet responsibility for the well-being of the whole, a silent pact that bound them together. Do you recall a time when civic engagement felt like a true conversation, where everyone genuinely listened to their neighbors? Church picnics by the creek were eagerly anticipated, with children splashing and adults sharing stories under shady trees. The scent of fresh-cut grass and damp earth mingled with the aroma of fried chicken and watermelon, creating a perfect afternoon. These simple gatherings, imbued with an honest joy, solidified the bonds that held our small town firmly together. Only the oldest residents knew the secret spot along the creek where the water was always coldest, perfect for chilling sodas. The church bells chimed softly at noon each day, a gentle reminder of the passage of time and the town's enduring spirit. It was a rhythm, a pulse, that beat steadily through the decades, a constant in a world that slowly began to change. Ed saw the familiar faces, now etched with the lines of experience, still walking down Main Street, their stories continuing. This unwavering sense of community, like a deeply rooted cypress tree, stood strong against the winds of fleeting progress. Change came slowly to our town, a gradual shift rather than a sudden, jarring upheaval, allowing traditions to softly endure. The familiar roads, the beloved landmarks, they remained, silent witnesses to countless stories and shared human experiences. Ed still cherished the quiet conversations, the knowing glances, the shared laughter that filled his barbershop every single day. It was a feeling of peaceful continuity, a gentle current carrying everyone forward together through seasons and generations. These memories, like well-worn stones in a riverbed, smoothed by time, held the enduring essence of a life richly lived. The strength of our community wasn't in grand gestures, but in the quiet, steady rhythm of neighborly affection and mutual respect. As the Louisiana sun dipped below the horizon, a soft quiet settled over the town, wrapping everyone in its gentle embrace. Another day, filled with shared stories and quiet connections, slowly faded into the peaceful, comforting darkness of the night. Every morning, Ed Fontaine would unlock the barbershop door, letting the mingled scents of shaving soap and fresh coffee waft through the air. The well-worn leather chairs sat quietly waiting, reflecting the gentle light from Main Street as the town slowly began to stir. The familiar chime of the door often announced the first customer, usually old Mr. Percy, stopping in just to read the morning newspaper. Only a seasoned barber truly understands the particular satisfaction found when a fresh razor glides smoothly across a man's skin. The day unfolded with comfortable conversations, the snip of scissors, and the gentle hum of the old hair dryer echoing softly. Ed listened to tales of the harvest, discussions about market prices, and the latest news from the local families around town. He knew every corner of the small town, every familiar face, every tiny hope, and every quiet little worry. Do you recall the comforting familiarity of a cherished place where you knew every single tiny detail by heart? The distinct scent of bay rum aftershave and baby powder always lingered in the air as afternoon hours gently faded. After the last customer departed, Ed would sweep the remaining scattered hairs from the polished wooden floorboards. It was a daily ritual, a quiet, peaceful conclusion to another busy and very meaningful day of honest work. Life in this small town was much like a slow-moving river, always finding its gentle course with a quiet, peaceful serenity. The dusty red dirt roads connected the far-flung farms to our humble little town center with quiet determination. Children's laughter echoed from the schoolyard, blending with the gentle ringing of the church bells on Sunday afternoons. Everyone knew everyone else, and the shared stories of neighbors formed the fabric that held our community tightly together. Ed felt a deep sense of quiet contentment as he gazed out onto Main Street from his familiar barbershop window. It was a simple, honest life, where each passing day held its own unique and unassuming beauty, waiting to be appreciated. Long summer evenings passed with the chirping of crickets and the soft, flickering glow of fireflies dancing in the twilight. The air carried the sweet scent of jasmine and the rich smell of damp earth after a gentle afternoon rain shower. Each moment was cherished, a treasured part of the slow, harmonious tapestry of our peaceful, everyday existence. Then, a subtle shift began to ripple through the familiar, comfortable rhythm of our close-knit little town. Young Thomas, who swept hair and shined shoes, began speaking of opportunities in a place far beyond our quiet borders. He had found a position at a much larger barbershop in the bustling, exciting city of New Orleans, quite a distance away. Only those who have lived in a small town truly understand the profound significance when a young person chooses to leave. Thomas had spent time in Ed's barbershop ever since he was a gangly, curious young boy with boundless energy. He had learned so much from Ed, not just the intricacies of cutting hair, but also important lessons about life itself. Their evening conversations grew steadily deeper, filled with quiet advice and the hopeful murmurings of future dreams. Do you remember that particular feeling of an impending adventure, a promising new beginning just on the horizon? Thomas spoke of towering buildings and bustling streets, a world so different from our familiar, sleepy little corner. Ed listened, nodding thoughtfully, and occasionally offered a piece of honest advice drawn from his own life's experience. He helped Thomas pack his few sets of clothes and treasured personal items into an old, sturdy suitcase that was well-loved. The act of packing felt much like tucking away a piece of innocence, making ready for a brand new chapter ahead. Thomas's last few dinners with his family passed with a quiet, almost solemn sense of gentle anticipation. His mother baked his favorite peach cobbler, and his father recounted old, familiar stories from their shared past. The whole town seemed to know, offering silent, hopeful wishes for Thomas and his exciting journey ahead. Ed watched Thomas with a gentle mix of quiet pride and an old man's familiar, unspoken worry for the young. He was grown now, and it was certainly time for him to discover the wide, fascinating world on his very own terms. That morning, an old, familiar bus rumbled to a stop at our little town's small, unassuming bus station. A few townspeople had gathered to see Thomas off, each offering a quiet, heartfelt farewell in their own way. The bus pulled slowly away, carrying Thomas and his bright, hopeful dreams towards the distant, beckoning horizon. A peculiar quiet lingered in the barbershop the next day, a distinct and noticeable absence that settled softly. The small space where Thomas polished shoes and swept hair now felt empty, a subtle void in the familiar routine. Ed's familiar snip of scissors and quiet conversations no longer seemed to fill the room as completely as before. Only seasoned barbers truly notice the subtle shift in a shop's familiar sounds when a regular presence quietly departs. Thomas's family also felt his absence profoundly, even amidst their understandable and deep sense of quiet pride. His mother often found herself gazing out the kitchen window, as if half expecting him to reappear at any moment. The evenings were quieter now, without Thomas's youthful laughter or the familiar sound of his eager footsteps. Do you recall that specific feeling of quiet anticipation, waiting for news from a loved one who has journeyed far away? Every time the mail truck passed, a quiet flicker of hope would ignite softly within their hearts. Letters from New Orleans were what they yearned for most, a simple confirmation that all was well in the big city. Days turned into weeks, and the quiet waiting became an unspoken, subtle part of their everyday, familiar lives. This quiet anticipation was like a thin, gentle mist, ever present yet not entirely obscuring the bright sunshine of daily life. Folks at the general store also inquired about Thomas, sharing in the collective, hopeful anticipation of his news. They understood that a son leaving home was a natural, often quiet, part of the unfolding tapestry of small-town life. The world out there was vast and full of promising opportunities, but it also held its own share of quiet uncertainties. Ed often found his thoughts drifting to Thomas, hoping he was finding his way successfully in the vibrant, new surroundings. Every passing passenger bus that rumbled through town caused folks to unconsciously lift their heads in hopeful curiosity. Patience was a virtue well practiced in places like our small, quiet town, where life moved at its own pace. Each morning, Ed would unlock the shop, and each afternoon, he would faithfully sweep the worn wooden floors. Everyone in a small town intimately knows the specific time of the mail delivery, as if it were a precise clock. Old stories and quiet advice continued to be exchanged over the familiar hum of the barbershop chairs. But a part of every conversation seemed to quietly drift towards Thomas and his new, distant whereabouts. A gentle, unspoken tension, ever present, yet subtle, seemed to quietly permeate the very atmosphere itself. Do you remember a particular time when everyone around you was quietly waiting for something important to happen? Early mornings, Ed would drink his coffee, gazing out at the quiet street, lost in his own thoughtful contemplations. He wondered what Thomas was doing, and if he ever missed the familiar, comforting scent of our rich Louisiana soil. He missed Thomas's easy laughter, his youthful enthusiasm echoing throughout the busy, friendly barbershop. Thomas's quiet absence was much like an open book, gently waiting for its next meaningful words to be carefully written. Summer slowly gave way to autumn, bringing with it new, vibrant colors and a subtle, crisp chill in the evening air. The leaves began to turn golden and red, drifting softly down onto the damp, welcoming earth below. Then, one Thursday afternoon, as golden sunlight streamed through the barbershop window, a letter finally arrived. It bore a New Orleans postmark and Thomas's familiar, slightly crooked handwriting on the worn, simple envelope. Mrs. Dubois, who often collected her mail at the general store, noticed the distinctive envelope before anyone else. The news spread quickly through the town, like a gentle whisper carried on the breeze through the old oak trees. Thomas was well. He had found a good room, and he had started his new job at the bustling city barbershop. Only in a small town can a single letter bring such quiet relief and comfort to so many hopeful souls at once. Ed felt a warm wave of quiet satisfaction, and a gentle, peaceful release flow softly through his entire being. He had known Thomas would succeed, but receiving the confirmation was still immensely comforting and reassuring. Thomas's mother read the letter many times, her eyes moist but shining with a quiet, profound joy and relief. Do you recall that comforting sense of calm when a quiet, unspoken worry is finally gently lifted from your shoulders? His father nodded with quiet satisfaction, feeling a deep sense of pride that his son was navigating his new path. Thomas had sent his warm regards to everyone, especially Ed and the familiar customers at the friendly barbershop. He mentioned that city life was certainly a novel experience, but he was learning a great deal every single day. Thomas's news was much like a clear, cool stream, bringing gentle refreshment to a parched, waiting landscape. A gentle sense of acceptance settled in, and understanding that life naturally unfolds in its own quiet, steady way. The quiet waiting had concluded, replaced by a more peaceful, grateful rhythm that now infused their days. The town had sent a son out into the world, and now they knew he was flourishing, growing stronger each passing day. Ed felt a profound sense of quiet contentment as he carefully placed Thomas's letter into his old desk drawer. Life went on, but with a new richness, a subtle thread connecting them to the vibrant world beyond their borders. Thomas's quiet space was still there, but now it was filled with reassuring stories and hopeful, bright expectations. Life in the barbershop soon found its gentle rhythm once more, a comforting and familiar cadence that always returned. Only those who have truly experienced waiting can deeply appreciate the quiet peace that good news gently brings. New stories from bustling New Orleans now became a cherished part of the daily, comfortable conversations. Ed smiled as he cut hair, thinking of all the new things Thomas was learning and quietly experiencing far away. The town settled back into its familiar, quiet peace, but now with an added, subtle glimmer of hopeful light. Do you ever feel that quiet sense of peace when one circle of life gently closes and a new one softly begins? The seasons would continue to change, but the quiet bonds of our close-knit community would always remain steadfast, and Ed's barbershop would continue to be the quiet heart of countless shared stories and unfolding lives. Every snip of the scissors, every whispered conversation was a cherished part of his lasting, humble legacy. And Thomas's journey was a gentle reminder of the paths always waiting to be bravely explored by others. Ed Fontaine, now 64 years old, often reflected on the quiet peace he discovered along his journey through life. 30 years had unfolded since he first sharpened his shears and opened his humble shop on Main Street. A profound sense of contentment settled deep within his bones, a feeling earned by time and patience. The rhythms of the small Louisiana town remained largely unchanged, a comforting constant in his days. Beyond the familiar glass of his shop window, life continued its gentle, predictable flow. His barbershop had become a quiet sanctuary, not just for his customers, but for himself too. He learned to listen more than he spoke, gathering wisdom from countless stories shared in confidence. A barber knows the art of silence, letting the customer fill the air with their own thoughts and troubles. Did you ever find yourself in a profession where listening became your most important, unspoken duty? Young Ed, with his ambitious spirit, might have found this slow pace somewhat frustrating at first. He carried more worries then, more questions about the vast, unknown future stretching before him. But time, like the river, had a way of smoothing out the rough edges and calming restless spirits. Peace arrived not in a grand revelation, but through a slow, steady accumulation of everyday moments. The old barber chair, with its worn leather and polished chrome, was a silent witness to it all. It held the weight of countless worries and the echoes of countless whispered dreams. Each person who sat there, even for 20 minutes, brought a piece of the world into his quiet space. The barbershop was a refuge from the clamor of the outside, a haven from daily demands. Certain things from those days still hold their ground, familiar and comforting. Even today, the scent of classic Barbasol shaving cream, for instance, remains an enduring, timeless fragrance. And those little peppermints, the red and white striped ones, still sit in jars at many general stores. The subtle art of a barber's touch, the careful way he holds the razor, that also endures through generations. Ed wasn't always a perfect man, nor a flawless listener. He had his own moments of distraction. Sometimes, his mind would wander, thinking of his own garden or the fish biting down at the creek, but he always returned, offering his steady presence and a quiet, honest understanding. He learned to judge less and empathize more, finding common ground with every type of soul. Every man carried a story, a burden, or a small triumph. He remembered old Mr. Jim Peterson, who always spoke of his days working on the railroad, and young Billy Ray, whose dreams of leaving for the city sparkled in his eager eyes. The peace he felt wasn't an absence of trouble, but a calm acceptance of life's constant ebb and flow. Life in a small town flows like a gentle river with familiar bends and predictable currents. A barber watches the generations pass, observing the subtle shifts in fashion and spirit. His hands, now slightly scarred and calloused, told their own silent story of hard work. Each tiny nick from a razor, each ache in his back, was a testament to a life well lived. The simple joy of a sharp scissor, the satisfying hum of electric clippers, brought him comfort. He realized that true richness lay not in grand fortunes, but in quiet, meaningful connections. Just being there, day after day, year after year, held its own profound and quiet value. The comforting scent of talcum powder, mixed with hair tonic, was the perfume of his existence. He took quiet pride in his work, in making each man feel a little sharper, a little brighter. His hands shaped not just hair, but also, in a small way, the confidence of his community. The peace was a deep, steady current, flowing beneath the surface of his bustling days. He heard the passing of seasons in the stories, in the laughter, and in the quiet sighs. The red and white barber pole, outside his door, had spun through countless sunrises and sunsets. Sometimes, when the shop was empty, he would sit in the client's chair, just to feel its quiet history. He'd think of those no longer with them, their voices still echoing faintly in the quiet air. Life carried on, a continuous thread woven through generations. In this little corner of Louisiana, he enjoyed watching the young boys grow into men, then bring their own sons for a haircut. It was a beautiful cycle, a testament to the enduring human spirit and community bonds. The simple pleasures, like a freshly swept floor or a sharp blade, brought a quiet satisfaction. Do you cherish those small, almost unnoticed moments that truly make up a peaceful life? Patience was a virtue he had cultivated over decades. Like a gardener tending to his precious plants, he learned to accept what he could not change and to find joy in what he could influence. Each morning, the sun streamed through his shop window, painting golden stripes on the floor. It was a daily reminder of new beginnings, of another chance to serve his community. He found a profound stillness in the rhythmic snip of his scissors, a meditative quality to his work. The sound of children laughing from the street would sometimes drift in, a melody of pure innocence. A deep gratitude bloomed within him for the life he had been given, for his chosen path. He thought of his wife, Martha, and her endless support, her unwavering belief in him. Their home, a few blocks away, was another anchor in his peaceful, fulfilling existence. The small town felt like a large family, with shared joys and quiet, collective sorrows. Even the occasional sadness or disappointment was met with a gentle understanding, not despair. Age had brought a certain wisdom, a calm perspective that younger Ed could only dream of. There was immense strength in the simple routines, in the predictable cadence of his days, the feel of a warm towel, the precise angle of a comb. These were the small comforts. His barbershop stood as a steadfast landmark, reliable and comforting. Through every season, he often thought of his own father, a carpenter whose hands also knew the dignity of honest labor. A quiet legacy, built on small moments, was far more enduring than any grand monument. Do you reflect on what truly matters in your own life as the years gently accumulate? The peace he felt was a quiet satisfaction, a deep and abiding sense of being exactly where he belonged. Sometimes he'd fumble with a stubborn knot in a man's hair or nick himself with a razor. These small imperfections were just tiny ripples on the surface of his overall tranquility. A barber knows the particular sheen of hair oil on the floor, a subtle sign of a busy day. The unspoken language of the barbershop, understood only by those within its walls, was precious. The particular, sweet smell of hair tonic, a mixture of herbs and alcohol, lingered in the air. He cherished the everyday conversations, the simple exchanges that built true community. Each haircut was a tiny thread, weaving him further into the fabric of their shared lives. His love for the craft, for the steady rhythm of cutting and shaping, never diminished. He understood that happiness wasn't a destination, but a way of traveling through existence. The present moment, with its gentle hum and familiar sense, was more than enough for him. Now, at 64, a serene calm enveloped him, a contentment that felt utterly complete. He had faced his share of difficulties, but they had merely deepened his appreciation for peace. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across his clean, empty shop floor. Outside, the chirping of crickets would soon begin, a familiar evening serenade. He would soon sweep the last stray hairs, wipe down his counter, and lock the door. Another day completed, another quiet chapter added to the ongoing story of his life. He stood by the window, looking out at Main Street, now softly lit by the street lamps. Memories washed over him, gentle waves against the shore of his steady, quiet mind. There were no deep regrets, no burning desires for a different, grander existence. The street was quiet now, the bustle of the day having long since settled into evening. His own home awaited him, a warm lamp glowing in the front window, a beacon of peace. This was his life, this quiet satisfaction, this deep and enduring sense of peace. The faint scent of fresh-cut grass from someone's lawn drifted through the open door. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the old oak tree outside his shop. He felt a quiet pride in the life he had built, brick by honest brick. There was nothing he would change, nothing he would wish away from his journey. A simple life, yes, but rich in connections and deep, unspoken understandings. He had learned the true power of a quiet presence, the profound comfort of simply being there. The worn floorboards, the chipped paint, all bore testament to the passage of time. His barbershop, more than just a place of work, was truly a second home to him. And Ed, with 64 years behind him, embraced this peace with all his heart. He took one last breath, the comforting scent of talcum powder still lingering softly in the air.